When you think of Cambodia, you might conjure images of an exotic land. Perhaps the ancient Angkor Wat temple at sunrise. But if you've ever been there, then you know that these spots are just bait for the almighty tourist dollar. It has been over 800 years since any spirit has called this temple home. To find the true spirit of Cambodia, you have to wake up about an hour before sunrise. Travel to an unremarkable street in the heart of Phnom Penh. There you will find a type of social club that doesn't exist in any guidebook or tourist map. Membership to this social club is only granted to those who slog out a living on the streets, living day after day in this often overlooked corner of the world. The members here are content shop owners of the open-air market, located at the intersection of desperation and hope. Their shops resemble a refugee encampment, with tarps covering their wares. The cement storefronts house a tradition of a hard life, coupled with the weary work of a shopkeeper. The man I was there to meet was named Sol Wan Tek. He had been mining his storefront for over 20 years, with no expectation of a bonanza, just the semi-consistent gold dust that local panners collect if they put in the long hours. Before this, he worked at an NGO, shorthand for non-governmental organization. There are over 3,500 NGOs in Cambodia, the largest per capita than every country on earth except Rwanda. He says he was in charge of handling projects for community development, but any further questions about it get an equally vague answer. What he can say definitively is that when his project with the NGO finished, he took his entire life savings and bought the concrete shed, a storefront, primarily to sell spirit houses. It would take us nearly 3 hours to drive to a remote part of the Takao province. My driver, a man named Khan, who I feel resembles a man named Philip for some undetermined reasons, remained optimistic when the road went from black tarmac to red dirt. We were headed out to a farm in the rice fields of Cambodia to find the source of the spirit houses that Sol Wan Tek sells. He had given us a phone number that we were supposed to call when we passed a purple house. Was that house purple enough? I had no idea, but Khan seemed to think so. We called the number, and a man answered and told us that on the right side of the road we would see a man on a bicycle wearing yellowish shorts and a white shirt, and we were to follow this man to the farm where the spirit houses were made. This is how directions are given in Cambodia, with a lack of street signs and landmarks. I told Khan that the shirt the guy was wearing might have been white 10 years ago, and that we should look for another guy with a whiter shirt. But he assured me this was the guy that we were meant to follow. And I couldn't argue with him. It did seem like we were on the right track, heading deeper and deeper into the rice fields. The little farm where the spirit houses are made consists of 6 or 7 structures at the edge of a rice field. All around the yard, on different living platforms, were spirit houses in various states of completion. A quick survey of the tiny farm yielded bamboo and raw materials for the houses stacked in between the platforms, a swimming hole or irrigation holding pond, I'm not sure how much swimming is done there, giant cisterns that held captured rainwater, a plow that looked like it was pulled by an oxen, dishwashing area where a spoon was soaking, and a bathroom with a tub of waiting water that looked pretty clean. There were some ducks and chickens, cats, and a dog that shared the space with children and the industrious mom, all busily at work with their crafts. What was interesting about the children was that they worked so quietly and purpose-filled. It wasn't like they were on an assembly line trying to meet a quota. It was more like arts and crafts time at kindergarten had been extended, except everyone had already made this craft before. They were good at it. Their movements were intentional, deliberate. I got the feeling that they knew all the parts of the house, and they took a particular care and pride in putting it together. There was no fighting over the scissors, and the glue was passed around readily, and everyone seemed to enjoy that they were part of a shared effort. The matriarch of this brood was named Un So Pon. 7 years ago, a friend of hers from another village told her about the craft of making spirit houses. and that she could sell them in the city. She says she enjoys the creativity of making the houses, and that it's a good second income for her family. For fun, she watches TV, but keeps her hands busy making the houses while she's watching TV. She loves the singing shows the best. She's never been abroad or to Angkor Wat. Once, when she was a child, she went to the beach with some friends. The highest level of education she achieved was in the 8th grade, at a schoolhouse in the village. In a week, her and her family can produce around 30 houses, which she sells for between 80 cents and $2 for the larger ones. Solwantek sleeps in a chair that is placed in the center of his storefront from midnight to about 4 a.m. when he wakes up and walks over to the cafe to meet up with his neighbor store owners. Around 6 a.m., he heads back to his storefront to unpack his shop and get ready for the day's customers. It takes him about 35 minutes to get all the tarps off of his wares. Each movement efficient and deliberate, conducted through years of developed muscle memory. He has a rehearsed routine. In the last 20 years, he has folded these weathered and worn plastic tarps thousands of times. And today, a weird guy from America was filming him. But even this oddity didn't cause him to forget a step. Not once did he retrace himself. No hurry, no rush, just the slow, deliberate movements of a well-practiced dance. Once the store was opened up to his satisfaction, he took a few minutes to talk to me. Solwantek is 56 years old. He has a wife and 2 children, though he rarely sees them as they live outside of the city. He gets the spirit houses from rural farmers looking to subsidize their farming income. He buys them in bulk for around 50 cents to $1 and tries to sell them in the city for $3 to $4. Sometimes he can get as much as $6 for the large houses. I ask him if he ever goes on vacation or takes time off from work. He says that as a shopkeeper, he has no real holidays. If the shop is closed, there's no chance of earning money. He normally only takes a few days off a year, New Year's Day and some other religious holidays that he spends with his family in the countryside, but never more than 3 or 4 days a year. When asked if he enjoys life, he says yes. He enjoys it most when he makes his sale. His retirement plan is to sell the storefront to someone else and go back and live in his village with his wife and hopefully some grandchildren. I asked him if he's ever traveled, and he says that when he was working for the NGO, he traveled to the Philippines and to Thailand to study the project like the one he was in charge of implementing in Cambodia. When asked if he was happy, he simply said yes, happy enough. Back on her farm, Un is making houses. She rarely stops. Un wakes at around 4 a.m. to start on the houses. Then she makes breakfast for the kids around 6:30 and feeds the pig and chickens. She then gets back to making houses. She takes a break for lunch to make food for everyone, and then after cleaning that up, gets back to craft time. Every spare minute of the day is spent crafting new houses for the markets of Phnom Penh. Her monthly income from this hobby is around $80. She hopes to send her children to university so that they don't have to spend their days making spirit houses like her. I bought a little house from Solwantek. He asked for $2 for the house, but I gave him $20. His smile was unlike one I had ever seen before. I also bought a house from Un. She offered to give me one as a gift, but I insisted on paying her $100 for it. As I handed her the $100 bill, I felt every hair on my arm stand up. I don't know that I'll ever see them again. If Un's kids will go to university, if Solwantek will retire, or if Khan, my translator and driver, will get the tour boat he wants. On my last day in Cambodia, I set out to find who makes the spirit houses, and instead, I found the spirit of Cambodia.